Hello and welcome to Book Lovers Companion, the podcast about books, authors, their craft, and more. My name is Edith, and joining me for this episode is playwright, screenwriter, and crime fiction author Jon Atli Jonasson. Jon, hello and welcome to Book Lovers Companion.
Thank you so much, Edith. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure talking to you, and although you are originally from Iceland, today you join me from rainy Berlin.
Yes, we are spending the summer in Berlin. I used to live here before COVID for maybe 6 years with my family, so we go back a lot, and we have like a second family and a second life in the city, which is really nice to check in on once in a while.
I can imagine. And how does summer differ from Iceland then? The summer in Berlin from summer in Iceland?
Now it's a little bit the same. It's raining 20 degrees. That is your perfect Icelandic summer.
Yeah, it's not so perfect here either. Like I said before we started recording, rain is expected here in Vienna as well. It's not much of a summer this year.
No. Is it?
It's a bit chilly.
But no, we love it. It's great.
Yeah, it's what we need actually. Our gardens need it, and we are happy that it's not, 35 degrees because that's way too hot for the city.
Yeah.
Jon, we are here to talk about your book, Broken, the English translation. And it's the first novel of yours that has so far been translated into English. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And it's published in English by Corylus Books. And I also found out that it came out in German as well.
Yes, Fischer Verlag in Germany published it in, I guess Germany, Austria and Switzerland in February, and the second one in the Reihe, as they say in German.
Yes,
it's coming in end of October.
Already, that's early, isn't it?
You have to tell me. I don't know a lot about the German book market.
I think so, because it's when in the same year, the second one in the same year. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I mean, good for you, obviously. And as far as I have seen on social media, Quentin is also working on the translation of the second book for the English one, isn't he?
Yeah, he has he just sent me the first draft of the translation.
Oh.
I don't know if we're gonna call it toxic in English, but it's the nature of titles. They kind of start growing on you a little bit. So I think that's his plan with this one. He just calls it toxic, but always kind of mentions that, of course, it could be called something else.
Yeah.
So let's see where that goes.
But I have to say, I've looked at both covers on Amazon, the German one and the English one, and after reading the book, I have to say that the English cover resonates more with me. It's a bit more fitting. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, in Germany, I think there is as with Nordic noir. I think the market, the readers, the audience, they expect certain things from it, and I found the German cover, the design of it, as I've already seen, and probably if you go on Amazon, you can see the German covers of both my books. Both Gift, as it's called in German, and Schmerz, and they kind of follow their kind of visual language, kind of a certain direction they go with it. But my books kind of take place in nature and kind of not.
So. Yes, indeed, absolutely. And now, speaking of book number one, what can you tell our listeners about this book of yours, Broken, without giving too much away, of course?
Yeah. So to begin with, my interest in, as you said while you introduced me, I mainly started out as a dramatist, working in theater, writing theater performances, sometimes plays, sometimes devised theater, and a lot of it has to do with social or political dynamics. And my kind of start in crime writing came from doing a radio play in, I think it was 4 or 5 parts, about Iceland's most notorious criminal case, a case called the Guðmundur and Geirfinnur case. So back in the 70s, 2 men that are not connected or related or knew each other go missing within the span of a few months. And a group of young hippie kids that kind of have new radical ideas and are smoking weed and living like this hippie lifestyle. They become the focus of the police in the investigation, and this is probably the biggest wound on the on Icelandic society's psyche, if you will. And my radio play had to do with the solitary confinement they found themselves in. So in this case has never been solved, neither man has never been found, and it was this big miscarriage of justice. Around the time I wrote it, the government had kind of released this report on the case, in terms of what went wrong, in a sense. And I found that document to be lacking kind of like a human voice, because this was very much history as written and recorded by the state. So my kind of mission, if you like, was to go in and offer an alternative view of these events, which I did through interviews with the people who are still alive that went through this, both the police and the accused, through unreleased prison diaries and stuff like that. And kind of along the way, I picked up the necessary skill set to go into, crime writing. So I don't know if you've read Broken, but a lot of it, the way I kind of conceptualize it is like, I thought there had been a long time since we had in Iceland, at least, what I like to call a state of the nation crime novel, where you kind of take a look at the mechanics of how policing works and also the criminal underworld. And a lot has changed in the past decade, I would say, just in terms of who is committing crime, what kind of crime are they doing, stuff like that, and how are the police responding to it.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here in what you just said. And yes, I did read the book, and I have to say it started with a bang. Yeah. for our listeners, quite literally, for one of the main characters. And after finishing it, I thought, but why? Why? What? Then, I mean, I'm glad it's a trilogy, so I'm hoping a little bit. We won't answer that, of course. That I might get a few things cleared up in the next one. I have to say,
sure,
okay, because I was what? No, this can't be. After the end, after the last page. But you said it's about political dynamics. That's what you got interested in, the change of how the police worked, or how the police works these days, and using a female protagonist alongside a male one. But I still get the impression, although there's a lot which makes her the unlikely hero of the story, because of what happened to her. She's very unlikely as a hero, but yet she is. And I think that also makes her interesting. The fact that she's a woman, the fact that her, let's call it, disabilities after the accident that happened. I think we're not giving too much away because that's how the book starts. with a certain event that also changes her personality. Was that something that is also reflecting society or the institutions in Iceland these days? The importance of women in the institutions nowadays?
No, for sure. I think the fact that we were the first nation to have a female president kind of just became like a signal for us, and I think when you basically take a look at like feminism and political feminism in Iceland, we are very willing to talk about it, but always like in a historical context. So it's like so it kind of, it's almost like they're saying the battle has already been won, and the clearest sign is that, for me at least, the struggle isn't done until women are paid equally as men, for example. I think that's one really good signifier. And I thought, like, historically, and mainly men went into the police, where they, it was like picking a trade. You would become a plumber or a carpenter or a police officer. These are not the police officers we need today. And even like older police officers and detectives tell you, these are not the guys we need. We need like smart young people. We probably need computer programmers first and foremost, so not like these big macho cops. And like, to give you more of an historical context, for example, in the 70s and 80s, like sex crimes against kids and women, there was maybe one woman who was investigating them. They were just kind of pushed to the side. Women that were, sexually assaulted were basically accused of being hysterical and stuff like that. A lot of that changed in the Me Too movement and to the better, but it's changes like these that kind of dictated the way I kind of tried to construct the main characters in the book.
Also, the change in the Icelandic society as a whole, because there are a few times where the characters mention the changes from an old Iceland to a new Iceland, not just in the institution, but in the society as a whole.
Yeah, so it's a phrase that doesn't really translate, but it's I would kind of be able to identify mainly through behavior or the way people speak or stuff like that. Yeah, that's very much old Iceland. And then, this is new Iceland. So it kind of, it's a good starting point to kind of measure what is changing. So I sometimes, like, if you meet old people in Iceland, they won't say, "Hi, how are you?" Or they might say that, but shortly thereafter, they would say, "Who are your people?" And you would have to tell them who your parents are, your grandparents are, where they are from, so they would place you and identify you. That's the way we identified each other. Oh, yeah, so you're his cousin, and oh, okay, yeah, I know him. So that's how you would meet people. Obviously, when you meet somebody who is an Icelander with a different background, that all is off the table, So that I think it's one of the bigger changes, and also how should I put it? How people sometimes talk about Iceland as a country. It's not a country. It's a tribal community. That's something completely different, and you can't understand it. And I think this would make sense to people in Austria and Switzerland, where it's not on a country scale. It's way smaller, in a sense. And what happens in small places where everybody kind of has this shorthand is corruption and all of that stuff that goes with it. So that has been our experience, at least. So, and it's been said like, Sweden is run by the 9 families that own Sweden. In Iceland, they are like 5 or 6. So you can imagine the situation there. So I'm just mentioning this because I'm not sure that democracy was ever meant to function in a tribal society. So
probably not. It's more like the elders,
Yeah. So everybody, like we say, there's also another common saying is, he's my friend's uncle, So that meaning that you are getting this or getting ahead because somebody's doing you a favor. So
it's an interesting point of view of your country, which is not a country like you said. It's a tribal society. Okay. It does resonate in a way with Austria, I think. I've just thought of the most western part of Austria, where I often say people from the eastern part of Austria have no chance of becoming part of. You will always be the outsider, no matter what, no matter how long you've lived there. You will always be the odd one out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you think that this kind of viewpoint of the Icelandic society does in a way resonate with the other part in your book, the other kind of community you describe in your book, the Eastern people from Eastern Europe, where it's also a bit like tribe-like? When you think of your second main character, Rado, the colleague of your female character.
Yeah. I think Rado is kind of like an example of a man who's done everything he can to assimilate. It's kind of be one of the natives in a way, and but I think his blind spot is that obviously he's married to a woman who obviously has a different kind of family setup. So and sometimes I'll meet readers that find it a little bit far-fetched, but then I tell them a few true and real stories, and they go like, "Oh yeah, actually, what you're writing about is kind of pretty middle of the road in terms of that." For example, I can remember a recent incident where the father of the chief of police, who was a woman, was arrested because he had I think at least 100 firearms, illegal firearms in his possession. So, and she's still, I think, chief of police. So, it was this huge scandal for 5 minutes. So, and a lot of stuff like this. So,
okay.
So that just give you a little bit of an insight in. But I also think, I mean, not to speak on a negative note, I like to point out that this is also a country where we have 93 search and rescue teams, which are composed of volunteers. Mm-hmm. And these are people, at the drop of a hat, they will leave their jobs and get dressed and go walk up a mountain, find somebody who is hurt or lost. So, and do extensive training to do that. So I think the Icelandic character is kind of complex and way more three-dimensional than what we would like to think. So,
yeah, I can imagine that. I've never been to Iceland, unfortunately.
You have to come.
I know.
Context, I hope.
Yes, I hope one day, because it's always a question of time and money,
Yeah, of course.
Unfortunately, yeah. But always interesting. You are not the first guest from Iceland. It's always fascinating to talk to you because outermost part of Europe, because we sometimes forget Iceland is still there, Yes, you are part of Europe. I'm not talking EU. EU is not the same as Europe. We are this continent and a small.
Been on your show?
Solveig has been here.
Oh yes, okay.
Jonina has been on the show. Lilia has been on the show. Gustav, Johan, quite a few actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's always fun talking to them. And we also met Solveig and Jonina at Crime Fest in Bristol. So.
Oh, lovely! Yes.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about what you mentioned. We already said old Iceland, new Iceland is changing society, but also the question when your main character wanders a little bit. I mean, what's the interest of coming back to the crime factor in your book? What's the interest of European crime gangs in, like she puts it, your little island, your little Iceland?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think what we're seeing, for example, if in Iceland, like in public institutions, you would have directions maybe in Icelandic and Polish, not necessarily English. So I think the Poles are now like 20 or 30% of the people's of the inhabitants of the nation, and with that, and I'm not saying it's because they're Polish or nothing like that. Obviously, there are criminals there too. So, and I just found their story interesting, So because they are something that the police have to deal with. But not only the Polish, but the Albanians and all of that. So in trying to research how the situation is, this kind of came up. So that kind of I just kind of followed that story. But there are also Icelandic criminals there too, and they are very nasty.
I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, we are not talking about your run-of-the-mill con man, but we're talking about real hardened criminals then.
Yes, but I think what is also changing, what I found is like, and I found it because I did a lot of research for this. I found interesting is like, okay, there would be a drug dealer like in the 80s or 90s. He wouldn't sell 15-year-olds cocaine or something. He would maybe sell them a little weed,
Yeah, okay.
But today, people like kids can go on Telegram and they will have heroin within half an hour. So there are no. It's amoral now. That's kind of what I found. But it's more the subject of the second book, the drug aspect of modern day criminality in Iceland. That's very much a book about the drug trade, in a sense.
Okay.
So, but I'm just saying in terms of how it's changed.
Because this book number 1 in the trilogy Broken is more about, like you said before, this dynamics in society, politics, people on the top, how to stay where they are. It's more about that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the influence that they wield.
Sorry?
The influence that those people wield, because you have politicians, you have very well-educated people with money.
Yeah.
And you have businessmen and women who are, of course, interested to keep the status quo.
Yeah.
And are not interested in any disturbances, at least of all from the police.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, but I mean, at the highest level, it's more about, just staying in power, and that's very much the way the police used to work back in the day, where it was just where you had the politicians dictating how policing should be done. So, but that is fortunately changing and has changed in the past 2 decades or so. So, with this big horrible lesson of the Guðmundur and Geirfinnur case.
Yeah, you said Iceland is, one might say, owned even by 5 families. Let's say 5 families. Change is, of course, harder then. And what about the public? Do they not demand this change? Are they not interested more in change? Because one would think it might be easier in a small population, or is it harder?
I think, I mean, Iceland, if you view it just in a European context, I think they have also drunk the neoliberal Kool-Aid in terms of, everybody can become rich. It's just about how hard you are willing to work and how much you're willing to apply yourself and all of that. And but I think, for example, as people in the West, in Western Europe, the UK and so forth are finding that there isn't actually much upward social mobility anymore. So in that sense, I think it's interesting to be writing crime fiction in a moment where this kind of pitch has stopped working. So it will be interesting to see what happens next. And I think it also has to do with how people view themselves. I think we are always being addressed as consumers rather than citizens, in a sense. So I think there was this survey made in Iceland like a while back about young people engaging in politics, and they had just kind of pushed that to the side as one of those things that they didn't really find that interesting, So maybe they are too busy finding the perfect morning routine or something. I don't know.
The perfect morning routine via Instagram and TikTok. You might be right there, because the question is always from the younger generation, probably, why should I be interested? It's politics. I don't care. Yeah, you should be interested, shouldn't you? I mean, your rights, what you're allowed to do, what you get paid, the taxes you pay, it's all decided by politics.
Yeah, pretty much. So. But I mean, maybe they just need fresh new ideas to get excited about it. So
maybe it does. And what about people on the fringes of society? That's also, I think, a part of your book, because the victim, is not rich. Is not from a rich family. I don't want to give too much away because it's part of the whole plot. And nobody seems to be too, worried that someone that young is going missing, or kind of like saying, oh yeah, it happened before, the person will be back, don't worry too much, why all the fuss and so on. What about these parts of Icelandic society, which you, I think, incorporated well in your book? I'm not just talking about different communities, backgrounds. I'm also talking about being from Iceland and being also on the fringes of society.
Yeah. I'll try to answer your question. For one, and I don't think I'm giving too much away. It's like I like the pronoun chaos that erupts when they have to start looking for this teenager, and I think I just felt there was so much about the young person's identity that made them kind of like stray away from the norm. So obviously, I mean, now it's a bit different because we had a rather awful murder case a few years back where the protocol within the police when a teenager goes missing is a little bit different now. So
okay.
they will take that much more seriously if if somebody goes missing. Certain mechanisms are in place to start looking immediately. But in this case, they are not sure if it's a missing person or suicide. So that kind of obviously takes it in a different direction. But no, and a lot of it is like I found that with teenagers that are in trouble, like in my story, it's assumed that they are somewhere taking drugs or something, and I thought it was kind of like the same logic that you would apply to a victim of rape, where you can lay so much blame on the victim. So, well, she was dressed like that, so yeah. I mean, maybe she had second thoughts or whatever. So it's a little similar to that, I thought.
Victim blaming or victim shaming, or yeah.
Yeah, but I think also, I mean, when it comes to that, I mean, I think sometimes people just fall victim to what we call, if it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck. You understand me? So
yeah,
it would be a duck.
Yeah.
So.
And may I ask, your main character, I found her most intriguing and interesting, and how she coped with what happened to her. Yeah. People around her are always unsure how to deal with her.
Yeah.
Because they don't really know what happened and what is really going on. How did you come up with a character like her, and what was happening to her, and how she copes with that? What can you tell us a little bit about her as a character and the development of this character?
Yes. So I got really interested in a few years back in the way serious head trauma can basically change people's character, and I've seen a few examples of this. People that have had car accidents and or other kind of accidents where they've received head trauma and kind of come out the other end as a completely different person. It's also combined with I have an older brother who's in his 60s. He's my half brother, and he's autistic, and his autism is due to lack of oxygen during birth. So he has brain damage, and he is, as we say, on the spectrum. So I've always kind of found it fascinating how he kind of takes in the world and how he responds to different situations. So one of them is like there is no filter. He will say exactly what he's thinking, and someone will pass by and he will say, "That's an ugly person wearing stupid pants. They should not be wearing these pants." And it can, put people on edge. And I thought that kind of electricity was interesting. And but he will not only just say negative things. It's just there is no filter. And I guess my wife is a little bit the same, kind of like brutally honest, even though she has more control of it. So, but since I know her so well, I can see when she's kind of holding something back. So I thought what could create dramatic tension is somebody who's kind of in control of it, but not. And so that's basically the kind of the starting point of that character. Where because as I say, I mean, I guess I think it's Stephen King who kind of cleverly put writers in kind of two categories: people who like plot and people who like character. And I'm very much in the second group.
Okay, yeah. And I've observed it before that if you are not a horror writer, you know that most of Icelandic crime fiction authors, they do not dwell on the gore. It's not what interests them. except you are maybe a horror writer, then you might bring in more gore than in your usual crime fiction writing. But gore is not the thing. It's about, like you said, it's about the plot, and it's mostly also about the characters and the relationships between the characters.
Yeah. I think kind of that applies to, even though Yrsa is she has a good go at the gore sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but I'm saying, I mean, yeah, obviously horror writers seem to be, you know, more in that line. But I think the strongest element about just Nordic noir in general is still this kind of focus on character, I think. And I don't think, for example, I think you read Joan Espo for these characters. They are so interesting. And even though they are super broken, you just kind of are instantly attracted to them. Or Stieg Larsson's characters even more. So,
yeah.
More so.
Well, yeah, and like I said, it begins with the bang of her having this injury and changing her character, her personality, as you describe it also. I mean, there's more for her to come. You put her through the ringer, and she comes out of it on top in a way, and she deals with it and she handles it, and she also has this support from her colleagues, from her friends, and that's also something I liked, because they don't give up on her. They, even Rado, who tries to understand, who tries to figure out what is it about her, why is she the way she is, and how can I be of assistance? How can I help? How can we work together? Although he's reluctant at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's absolutely
absolutely
something I like. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. No, and again, you know, as I said, I mean, you proposed this as the first book in a trilogy. I tell Quentin when I'm super tired that it's a trilogy, but when I'm feeling better, it's a series. So
it would be an interesting series. I mean, the characters are very interesting. I would love to read more about them, about how they work together, because I think it really makes it interesting. They're different personalities.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Absolutely. And may I ask, Jon, I was fascinated. I talked to the Teacup about it. It's unusual way of writing this story, because in the English version, it is the present tense. Is it also that way in the original version?
Yeah, present tense.
Okay. I mean, it makes it more immediate for the reader.
Yeah,
you are there.
That's the idea. Absolutely.
In the action. I mean, it's, like I said, it's unusual, but it's also, like I said, something I did appreciate while reading it. I don't have that often, present tense. I think it's one of the first few books. I'm not sure if I've read something in the present tense before. I have to think about it.
No.
Usually in English we have past tense when people write books, and that makes it so unusual.
Yeah, okay.
But we have this immediacy. Like I said, you are there in the action at the moment when you read. You are there with them. It's also, I compared it a little bit with first-person narration, because when you have a first-person narration, you sit on the shoulder of the character, and sometimes people say, "Oh, I don't like that present tense." I realized I don't mind, because, like I said, it's something you are directly there. You are there in the action. You're part of the action.
Yeah. What you get from it, I think, is because I work as a screenwriter, so a lot of times I will construct a chapter like a scene, so it has to happen consequently. You know, most of it has to be propelled that way, and I found it like a good tool, because there are things you need to incorporate in a different way. You know, so but my favorite absolutely is. I don't know if you read, there's this, I read it like, I think last year, there's this book by, which is called you could do something amazing with your life. You are Raoul Moat. Have you read
No,
that?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
It's a true crime book about a man called Raoul Moat who goes on a killing spree in the UK after being released from prison, and it's written in the second person present tense, and it's really powerful to read.
Okay.
And a brilliant book. I think it won the true crime gold dagger or something, like very deservedly. It's quite brilliant. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
I don't remember the author's name, but it's a great book.
To write it down, have to look it up. I wanted to ask you about that.
It would be, you are standing in the forest. You look to your left. You look to your right. You pick up the gun. So it's almost like you're in the head of this guy, which is a truly nasty experience.
Can imagine. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about it. You said it comes from the fact that you are a screenwriter and a playwright, this fact that you write a present tense. Do you, and you write them almost like scenes. Is it also how you see it before you write it down, how you see it in your mind as a scene, more vividly, more than anything else? Because sometimes authors say, I have to see it in my head before I can write it down. Is it also the way with you when you write a novel?
Yeah, I think it's yes and no. I mean, you kind of I think in the kind of like in first draft stages, you're basically just following your impulses, you know. And then but I think the big advantage I had from coming from script writing is it's like filmmaking is such a collaborative process. When it came to working with an editor, receiving notes and addressing notes, it was no problem. It all went very easy. So I like to say, if I think I am the smartest guy in the room, I'm probably in the wrong room.
I don't believe that. And what about dialogue? I mean, as a screenwriter, as a playwright, it's all about dialogue. I mean, that must be fairly easy for you.
Sure. Yeah, but you can kind of, you kind of go, okay, I think I kind of have an outline for this chapter, and I think my kind of rule is not to kind of solve it all in dialogue. So I think because dialogue anyway is just one layer of a scene, whatever you're doing, film or theater or whatever. So I think it's a very lazy way of writing, just to do a lot of exposition and dialogue. He died, this and that. Like most Agatha Christie stuff ends with Hercule Poirot explaining what you've been seeing. So
yeah, one might say that's her charm as a writer these days.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm saying it's like it works for her, but not for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And how important then is place for you? Since you said we have nature as an important part of the whole novel, but also the modern city.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think so much in Broken revolves around this kind of high rise they are building, and we are seeing how Reykjavik City is rapidly changing. They're building a lot of new big houses, and this being Iceland, it's all very, very chaotic. So it's not like when you walk the streets of Vienna or Copenhagen, where there's been some urban planning. It's not like that. You'll see like a you'll see like a house from timber, and then you'll see a huge skyscraper. It kind of looks like Eastern Europe did after the fall of the wall. You would have this super glitzy stuff, and then like super old buildings, and no kind of overall logic. And this is a complaint, I think, urban planning in Iceland. I mean, most artists are furious about how ugly the city is becoming. So, but the ugliness of it makes like the perfect backdrop for crime fiction, I think. So,
yeah, because crime is also ugly, isn't it?
yeah, but it's and that's why in good humor we laugh a little bit about the cover of the German book. So it's like house somewhere in in a very idyllic wilderness of Iceland. So where most of this book does not take place.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's why I was so astonished by the cover of the German translation. So,
yeah.
Okay. Jon, may I ask you, as such a prolific writer, what would be your advice for any other writer or aspiring author out there?
I think I see a lot of people kind of because I've taught a little bit of creative writing at Arts University, but mainly screenwriting and playwriting. So a lot of times I think people give up too easily. It's easy to write when sometimes it's easy to write, and then you get the days where it's actually a job, and that kind of separates people into two groups immediately. And sometimes it's a grind and you don't really feel like doing it. So I have found that the best way to do it is just try to write a little bit every day, preferably in the morning when you're kind of fresh and not too busy with other stuff. So and I think and this applies both to, I think, screenwriting and crime writing. Is like the first draft is always going to be a bit bad, and we call it the vomit draft. So where you're just kind of vomiting out your ideas and don't judge yourself too harshly to begin with. So
and go back to editing.
Yeah, I think so. And just be, my luck has been, I have a wonderful editor, and also just get somebody who likes to read crime fiction, because I think one part of an editor is obviously what we would call like a script editor, where you would get like points like, this guy can't be in the pizza place, he died in episode 3 or chapter 3 or whatever, so to fix that, which is more like the housekeeping part of it. But I think to some extent theme isn't really, and I think for me, when I kind of went in to write Broken, I just had this vague idea of a theme which I thought would be, kind of like a state of the nation crime novel. But theme is not something you need to, in a first draft, to be super focused on, because everything has a theme unless it's a soap opera. So part of reading your first draft is just kind of identifying how you can but firstly identifying the theme, and then kind of see, okay, how can I put this to use? Because sometimes in the process the thing happens, which is the thing you're writing becomes the thing it wants to become, So don't push too much against it, and, because sometimes the reader will, and I think a lot of times the reader will kind of sense somehow that things are forced, that you're forcing the narrative in a certain direction.
I think so too, yeah.
And I think for example, I think sometimes we, you can change the theme in the midway through. That's fine.
Mhm.
Nobody cares, because then something else wants to come out. So
Mhm.
so just follow that, and yeah, that's pretty much how I
Mhm.
see it. And
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And you touched a little bit upon what's coming next. I mean, book 2 is for the English translation already the first draft. You already have it. Or
yeah.
it's already there. It exists. But
I
what
think
can
Quentin. It's been raining in England, I think. So Quentin has been forced to
busy
be inside, not
translating?
on his plot of land. So
Nothing much to do outdoors. But what can you expect your fans from you next, except from book 2? You said a trilogy. You say a trilogy might be a series.
yeah, it's a trilogy when I'm super. I
Okay.
mean, again, with letting the thing become what it wants to become. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean,
Yeah.
could be. I have a contract for 3 books. They
Mhm.
might be 10 of those, or maybe something else. So I think every writer writes the book he's writing as it's the last book he'll ever write.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah.
So I think it just gives it the attention. It
Mm.
respect
Mm.
by thinking like that. So, and
Mm.
I'm super fortunate to be a published writer, and I don't assume that people want to print whatever I kind of write down. Absolutely not. So I think I'm humble enough to understand how fortunate I am. I think.
Mm. And will you be at Iceland Noir?
I think so. For the past, I guess, 2 or 3 years, I've had the joy of participating. What I like a lot is moderating. I find that really interesting. Getting to know other writers and engaging with the audience.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just think it's such a special thing that Quentin to begin with and Ragnar and Issa have put together, and they are always
Mm-hmm.
like super generous to include me. And it's
Mm-hmm.
good because I live 5 minutes away, so I can just
Okay. You have an absolute advantage.
home turf advantage, home court advantage.
Good for you. Jon, is there anything else you would like our listeners to know?
No, not really. I just since I have you here, and it's Andrew Hankinson who wrote "You Could Do Something Amazing with Your Life." I highly recommend it. It came out in 2016. This book, I'm a little late in discovering it, but
Okay.
yeah, who like it? I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely highly
Mm-hmm.
recommend. So
Okay.
other than that, it's just good stuff.
Mm. So, Jon, thank you so much for joining me. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you. Absolutely interesting. We could go on even more. Absolutely. It was an absolute pleasure. And please wait for me in the green room. I will be with you shortly.
Yes, I will.
Dear listeners, I do hope you enjoyed this episode as much as my guests and I did. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And I do hope you will tune in for another episode. Until next time.